The protagonist of this movie is a mobster by the name of Pan Soo. His wife Seo Yun and he share an apartment. Violence and work are inextricably linked in the gangster world. He once dispatched his sidekick, Man Sol, to a factory. The reason for visiting this factory is to compel the owner to sign the letter of handover for the factory space. The elderly factory owner eventually consented after being threatened with having his hand severed. Earlier, he had refused. In another place, Boss Yang came up to Pan Soo, who was dining at a restaurant. It initially appears as though the two of them are having a disagreeable argument, but it soon becomes clear that they are arguing about Pan Soo's father-in-law, who happens to be the gangster's boss, and his fortune. One day at a noodle store, Pan Soo runs into geeky student, Dong Hyun. When it came time to pay for the meal, Dong Hyun realized that he had forgotten to bring his wallet. The shopkeeper's grandma commands Pan Soo to cover the cost. Dong Hyun is attempting to get a shoe stuck in the antenna of a skyscraper as the action shifts to above it. Dong Hyun appears to be being duped by a friend until all of a sudden he stumbles and drops to the ground. Pan Soo, who was nearby, was struck by the object and they both eventually passed out. In short, they switched bodies, but Pan Soo was already conscious, while Dong Hyun, who was in Man So's body, was still unconscious. Pan Soo appears to be extremely baffled by what just happened. We may also see Dong Hyun's father, who turns out to be the owner of the film factory's elderly father at the beginning of the movie. The doctor informed Dong Hyun's father that his son was experiencing some memory loss. Despite the fact that Pan Soo was within his son's body. Yes, it was obvious that he was acting odd. The father who believed his son had been bullied made the decision to visit the school to inquire, but regrettably the institution could not offer a satisfactory response. Pan Soo decides to search for the offender at this point. Pan Soo has to deal with misbehaving kids on the first day of class because Pan Soo stands up for a victim of bullying. Pan Soo has to deal with misbehaving kids. I had assumed that Pan Soo would eventually learn this lesson. However, it turned out that the misbehaving student was the one who learned his or her lesson. It's obvious that this Pan Soo is a mob boss with skill in the martial arts. These mischievous students are looking for trouble by tormenting other nerdy students since they are not happy with the lessons that Pan Soo is teaching them. Unfortunately, Pan Soo returns and swiftly teaches them a lesson. Pan Soo also seizes one of the misbehaving students' cell phones. Pan Soo quickly discovered a video of Dong Hyun being tormented right before he fell from the top of the building when he lazily opened the cell phone gallery of the misbehaving student. The following day, Pan Soo gives the phone back and makes a threat to call the police if the misbehaving students cause trouble once more. In a different scene, Seo Yun, Pan Soo's wife, is having an affair. When Boss Yang unexpectedly shows up and invites her to work with him to obtain the inheritance from the mob chief, who just happens to be Seo Yun's father. Seo Yun eventually consented after being warned that his affair might become public. Pan Soo seeks assistance from Man Chul one evening. Man Chul initially unable to recognize Pan Soo, who was inhabiting Dong Hyun's body. However, Pan Soo was ultimately successful in persuading Man Sol during a serious conversation. Pan Soo eventually runs into Hyun Young, the victim of bullying at school who he stood up for. The mother of Hyun Young, Mi-sun, emerged out of nowhere, and Pan Soo immediately recognized her. It comes out that the woman was once in love with Pan Soo. Pan Su's and Hyun Young's hair was taken by Man Chul from their respective heads. Given that it appears that Pan Su remembers having a relationship with Mi's son, it comes out that Pan Su wants to perform a DNA test. When Pan Su learns that this Hyun Young is actually his son, he is greatly shocked. Knowing this, Pan Su feels bad because bullying is a common occurrence in schools. It's actually his son. Man Chul is promptly enlisted by Pan Su to assist in breaking the limb of a misbehaving student who regularly bullies his kid. However, it was definitely turned down since Man Chul didn't want to harm a young child. Another step taken by Pan Su is inviting Hyun Young to take part in self-defense training so he can defend himself against bullies. Pan Su also sincerely desires to lose weight, or rather, to slim down Dong Hyun. Short version, Pan Su was able to obtain his perfect body via consistent training, which amazed the kids at his school. After school, Pan Su visited Hyun Young's house, where he was overcome with sadness upon seeing a small photograph of Hyun Young. Pan Su appears to regret missing the opportunity to grow up with Hyun Young. In a subsequent scene, Dong Hyun's father was challenged by a bunch of thugs who wanted to use violence to collect debts. He had just returned from work. Pan Su arrived as he was about to be struck but was prevented by Dong Hyun's father. He was therefore thrashed till he passed out. I sincerely commend Dong Hyun's father for having such a great amount of affection. Man Chul is sent by Pan Su to give the debt-collecting gangster a lesson after he refuses to take it. Will Man Chul be ganged up on now or in the future? Of course not. This Man Chul was finally successful in eliminating them all thanks to his superior martial arts abilities.
안 썩었으면 어떻게 할래? 오래 이 병신.
Hyun Young has also been successful in overcoming misbehaving classmates who frequently bullied him at school. The action then shifts back to the Min Su shop, where Pan Su fights with a group of inebriated men who have teased Mi's son. After the fight, Pan Su clarified that this Dong Hyun's body contained him. Initially doubting it, Min Su was eventually won over by Pan Su. Nevertheless, Pan Su did not like the remark because Min Su was furious that Pan Su had abandoned him. Hyun Young received an invitation to a party from a popular student at his school after school. Hyun Young ultimately agreed to it while looking uncomfortable. Hyun Young finally showed up to the event and received a warm welcome from both the popular boy and the nerdy students who were looking after the mischievous children. Unintentionally, this nerdy student overhears a discussion concerning Hyun Young, who will get into problems at the party. Pan Su had a meeting with Mi's son at a cafe, so he decided against accompanying Hyun Young to the party. He once more apologized right away, but Mi's son was still upset and refused to accept his apology. Pan Su embraces Min Su as he prepares to depart, and they kiss with the cafe patrons watching in awe. When he wants to hold it again, Min Su repeatedly tries to break free of the kiss. The geek talking to Pan Su over the phone. Young warns that at the party, his daughter Hyun Young will cause trouble. Knowing this, Pan Su hurried over to the party location. He was compelled to use alcohol, but when he refused, he was bullied there. Fortunately, Pan Su was quickly apprehended and there was another struggle when he tried to pick up Hyun Young. Pan Su was able to defeat them all quite easily. Back to the gangster world, where Man Chul will be waiting for you someplace. He learns that his wife is working closely with the boss Yang. Finally, Pan Su asks Man Chul for assistance in writing his father-in-law a letter. Hyun Young, who is growing more intimate with Pan Su, starts to fall in love and tells him so. Naturally, he was turned down because he was dating his own child. Boss Yang spends one evening in the room where Pan Su's body is being attended to. Dong Hyun, who was within Pan Su's body, abruptly awoke as he was about to kill. Boss Yang was stunned to see this, and he eventually collapsed and passed out. Dong Hyun complains to his father when he gets home that he is in his other's body. Soon after Pan Su arrived and clarified everything, it was clear that his father was astonished and perplexed.
세상에 어떻게 이런 일이. 어쨌든 너.
Dong Hyun was also requested by Pan Su to assist in mending his relationship with Mi Sun. The following day, Pan Su and Dong Hyun visited Mi Sun's store. Boss Yang and his men unexpectedly showed up while they were busy conversing. Yes, Pan Su was embroiled in a fight once more. Pan Su initially outperformed his adversary. However, Boss Yang cheated by striking Pan Su in the head from behind, forcing Pan Su into a corner. Here, Boss Yang is unaware that the person he is holding is Pan Su, who is hiding within a high school student's body. Yes, only those closest to you are aware. When the boss discovers Pan Su hiding in the kitchen, he orders him to leave. By threatening to blow up the gas cylinder that could kill them all, Mi Sun unexpectedly emerged. The boss ultimately gave up since he didn't want to die and departed. This scenario is sorrowful once more as Mi Sun assumes Pan Su's true form. When he caught a glimpse of Pan Su's face, Min Su was finally able to pardon Pan Su. Further, he was found to be a traitor in another location, particularly the home of the gangster Seo Yun. Once the gangster leader or his father had finished reading Pan Su's letter, Dong Hyun is asked for assistance by Pan Su, who wishes to meet his father-in-law in order to get an inheritance from his in-laws. The gangster head is initially more in favor of Pan Su, and everything seems to be going nicely. However, in this case, Seo Yun refused, and eventually he revealed the secret that Pan Su already has a child who is not Seo Hyun's. Additionally, the communication mechanisms were harmed as the issue got worse. Dong Hyun was speechless because she couldn't hear Pan Su's direction. Finally, Dong Hyun admitted that he turned down the chance to leave a legacy in the mafia world. This Dong Hyun appears to desire Pan Su to leave the gangster lifestyle and have a better life with Mi Sun. In front of me, Pan Su is waiting for Dong Hyun. Pan Su will reprimand Dong Hyun. Pan Su, on the other hand, is pleased with what Dong Hyun said. Seo Yun resolves to strike Pan Su and Dong Hyun because she still doesn't agree with her father's choice. Short version, Pan Su, who was in the hospital dying, also told Hyun Young, who was also present, everything that was going on. Pan Su apologizes right away for his history. Yet, Hyun Young still seemed perplexed. When Pan Su eventually passes out, Dong Hyun follows and falls unconscious. I ran into my granny at the noodle shop during the Pan Su operation. This grandmother appears to want to assist Pan Su in making amends for his past. The short version is that Pan Su and Dong Hyun's bodies have returned. Min Su is assisted at the store by Man Sol and Pan Su, Dong Hyun's father. Dong Hyun also appears to be advancing in their relationship with Hyun Young. The end. We appreciate your support and subscription if you're interested in reading our upcoming story.